Hello and welcome to another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I talk about different episodes from the Star Trek franchise. A few days ago was the 30th anniversary of the first airing of the Next Generation episode called The Last Outpost, and these are my opinions about it. The episode starts with a very promising teaser. The Enterprise is pursuing a Ferengi vessel because the Ferengi stole something from the Federation. It's not really important what they stole from who. One of the first decisions Gene Roddenberry has made when he started to create the Next Generation was that he didn't want to use any of the previous characters, or even alien races. DeForest Kelley was in the pilot because he was a friend of Gene, but even he wore a lot of makeup and he never was referenced by name, but only as the Admiral. There is a Klingon officer on the Enterprise, Mr. Worf, but all the other writers basically had to force him in. Michael Dorn was actually cast at the last moment, and his character appeared in the pilot in only one of the later rewrites of the script. They have also used the Romulans in the last episode of the first season, but that was done after Roddenberry went on vacation and the show got a new head writer. What I'm trying to say is that Roddenberry didn't want to use any of the previously established things. He wanted the series to stand on its own, which is the complete opposite of Star Trek Discovery, which relies absolutely on nostalgia and spits on it. Because no typical alien villains were allowed, they had to come up with a new recurring villain. And Gene created the Ferengi for the pilot episode, but they were only mentioned in the pilot. This episode was the first time we were supposed to actually see them, and they even built them up as this great threat for the Federation. This episode is not only the first time we, as the audience, see them, it's also the first time our crew sees them. When the Ferengi reach a certain planet, they suddenly stop. Our crew doesn't know what to expect, they don't know if this is a time for fight or a time for diplomacy, when suddenly the Enterprise stops, just like the Ferengi ship. They don't know what's happening, so Picard sends LaForge and Riker to engineering. Now, this is strange. Why is this a task for Geordi, the blind navigator, and not for the chief engineer? As I said in my previous videos, Season 1 had a serious problem with the chief engineer position. Every time they needed one in the story, they created a new character. So why didn't they create a new character for this episode, but instead used Geordi? Did they actually think at this time about making him the new chief engineer from Season 2 on? Because he definitely looks like he belongs there. My huge respect for LeVar Burton. It must take talent to say scientific-sounding nonsense and looking like you exactly know what you're talking about. After the bridge crew finds out that somebody or something has hacked to their database, they try different maneuvers to get out of the situation, which they assume is a Ferengi weapon. So Picard decides to surrender. Then the twist is revealed. The Ferengi don't understand his command and think that they should surrender. After Picard realizes that the Ferengi ship has the same problem and that somebody else is holding both of the ships, he calls up a meeting. Data briefs them about the history of the planet, which belonged to the Tikhon Empire, while trying to get out of the finger trap. The cool thing is this holographic table projector thing. They used it a couple of more times later, but then dropped it for some reason and changed it for these classic 2D computer screens. Not sure why, probably it was cheaper, but it's cool to see they attempted 3D computer graphics back in 1987. Unfortunately for our heroes, the Ferengi are not as stupid as they look. They find out that it's not the Enterprise what is holding their ship, so Picard changes tactics and offers cooperation. Members of both crews should beam down to the planet, however, when our crew beams down, only Riker materializes on the desired spot. He finds data on one of the huge power crystals, which are apparently the huge battery this planet uses, and they find LaForge hanging upside down. Then the Ferengi appear and use their energy whips to knock our heroes down. Meanwhile, both of the ships lose energy, and it is pretty cold on the Enterprise, and if I understand the conversation correctly, Dr. Crusher wants to sedate Wesley and let him die in sleep. Picard doesn't want it, he wants Wesley to die conscious. I don't know why, but I always laugh for some reason when these two talk about the way how Wesley should correctly die. Meanwhile, on the planet, our heroes woke up, and the funniest part of the episode starts. The Ferengi attack them. It's so shockingly funny. These are supposed to be the new enemies of the Federation. These are supposed to be the next big thing. This is so embarrassing for both of the sides. These are small people who move like monkeys on strings. They behave like a combination of snakes and guinea pigs. I have seen hamsters more scary than these guys, and these guys defeat our heroes. Tasha actually has to save them. That's how we find out, by the way, that the Ferengi are a bunch of sexists. So at least one positive thing about them, right? Ha 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 ha. Anyway, when Tasha wants to shoot them, the energy blasts get absorbed by the crystals, just like the energy coming from the Ferengi whips. And the last part of the story starts. An old man materializes and he introduces himself as Portal 63, the guardian of the Empire. He first refuses to accept the claim that the Empire doesn't exist anymore, but then he changes his tactics. He tests Riker, and because he doesn't move after he was attacked, for some reason, it persuades Portal to side with the Federation crew. While the Ferengi are monkeying around, both ships receive their energy back and our heroes safely return back. The story relies on the Ferengi and them being dangerous villains for our heroes. The Ferengi are, however, funny. So no, the story as a whole doesn't work, at least for me. There are some good elements, for example, the teaser is great. Picard trying to carefully listen to what his senior officers want to say is also a pleasant surprise, and a huge difference from Kirk's command. I also like the mystery aspect of it. I know I am a minority on this, but I really like mystery stories. Stories in which you don't know for a while what exactly is happening. That's maybe one of the reasons why I like the work of Brennan Braga. He was really great at doing horror and mystery and similar things. What I don't like are the Ferengi themselves. Let's think for a moment about the main villains of TOS. We had the Romulans, honorable space versions of ancient Romans, noble, intelligent, with a sense of duty. Even Kirk says that under different conditions he and the Romulan commander could be friends. Then you have the Klingons, originally based on Russians from the Soviet Union era. Very imperialistic but still very honorable people. Even the Klingon villains we meet, they are not just cartoonish bad guys. They are doing what they're doing simply because they have to. They're simply doing their jobs, even if they don't agree with their orders. Now, who are the Ferengi? Small people with heads which look like butts and elephant ears, who behave like monkeys on steroids. And they are capitalists, who thought that they will work as the main antagonists. The producers have dropped the Ferengi immediately after seeing this episode and have decided to do a more interesting and therefore also a bit more threatening villains. Originally these new villains were supposed to look like insects and be introduced in the second half of the season. Their introduction was however postponed. The last episode of season 1 is a cliffhanger which should lead to a season 2 opener which would introduce them. However, because of the 1988 writer's strike, this never happened, and the new villains were postponed again. When they finally were shown at the end of season 2, they were completely redesigned, from giant insects into cyborg. One of the most interesting of all Star Trek races, the Borg. So yes, a good thing about the Ferengi is that only because they failed, we got the Borg. The Ferengi returned the modulator to the Next Generation and became very important in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. There is also one annoying subplot, which as I later found out was supposed to be funny, the finger trap subplot. I never understood what that thing is and why Data doesn't pull his fingers simply out of that thing. Only after I've seen that thing used on YouTube and other sites, I kind of understand what was happening, but still don't think it's funny. It's again just a bit embarrassing that somebody like Data doesn't know how to get out of a simple thing like that. And yes, embarrassing is the word I use pretty often in this video, because way too many embarrassing things happen, and I left many of them out. So, what do I think overall? I like this episode until the Ferengi appear. That's when the whole thing starts to fall apart for me. What is supposed to be funny is embarrassing, what is supposed to be exciting is embarrassing. You get the picture. It's not a bad episode, but I can't call it good, even if I really want. On my scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, and 5 is average, I would give this episode 5 out of 10. I think that's more than fair, and to be honest, after rewatching the first couple of episodes of The Next Generation, I think it's really great that they didn't cancel the show after the first 13 episodes. Well, at least the next episode, called Where No One Has Gone Before, was better, if I remember correctly. Not great, but better, and I'm actually looking forward to rewatch it. Anyway, as always, these were just my opinions. Feel free to share your opinions down in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and if you do like what I do on this channel, feel free to watch any of the previous videos. You should see some links on screen right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to work immediately on a video about a classic Star Trek episode called The Doomsday Machine. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time. Bye.